Okay, gang, here we are again. This is Dr. Swanson. What are we going to talk about today? Topic 2. Let's talk about the Topic 2 area. This is strategic writing in public relations. Topic 1 set you up with the important frame of mind and concept skills that you need to begin work as a PR writer. Now in Topic 2, we're going to practice those concepts and skills in earnest. So you'll need to rely on the step-by-step writing process structure you read about in Topic 1. The 10-step writing process. Remember that. Hang on to that because it's going to be so important in the capstone course. In the capstone course, you've got to remember that 10-step structure as you write the proposal and the final campaign book that you'll do in the capstone course. If you don't remember that 10-step process, you're just going to be writing all over the place and throwing mud at the wall to see what sticks. And then your instructor may say, how about outlining first? And you'll go, oh, damn, in Swanson's class we did that. So hang on to that 10-step writing process. It's going to be so important for you now and in the future. The solo assignments in Topic 2 are the news release and the backgrounder. I use these two because they're essential to what we do in public relations. They're the core of much of what we write in this field. The social media assignment is a team-based assignment. Why are we doing that as a team-based assignment? Because we work in teams in public relations. And so being able to create social media content through interaction of a team is really important also. So these 3 assignments will really help you get up to speed on what we do in public relations, and I hope understand why we do it. The news release requires you to tell a very persuasive and compelling story with just 1 page of copy. You can only go 1 page. So you've got to take a lot of facts and boil them down into 1 page, balancing the art and the craft. It's got to look good. That's the strategy part. That's the craft part. It's got to be structured right. And it's got to tell a persuasive, interesting story. That's the art part. You write news releases not for the general public. You write news releases for media gatekeepers. Those are the people you are targeting. Keep that strategic thought in mind. You're not writing a news release for every John, Tom, Juan, Pat, Christina. You're not writing it for those people. You're writing it for news media gatekeepers. Think like a gatekeeper. Write that news release the way a gatekeeper would want to see it. We talk about how it's so important that PR people make journalists' jobs easier. We are here to help journalists. So keep that in mind as you write that news release. How can you write it in a way that you will help the journalist? The backgrounder involves similar concepts, but in the backgrounder, you're telling a story with more detail, and you're telling a story in a way that really captures the news value so that the backgrounder gives really essential other information. So make sure you read the assignment instructions very closely on the news release and the backgrounder so that you're not just writing copy, but conceptually you understand what you're writing and why you're writing it and who you're writing it to. This is that balance of art and craft in public relations. It's about storytelling. PR writers are storytellers. And the only way you can be a good storyteller is if you know who you're telling the story to and what exactly they expect from you when you're telling that story. I do want to mention that statistically speaking, 80% of news releases sent to the media don't get used. Why is that? Well, I'll tell you what I think based on my many years of experience working in the news media. News releases come that look like crap. I mean, let's be honest. A journalist is not going to use a news release that looks like crap. It either looks bad or it doesn't make sense as a story. It's not persuasive or it's got mistakes in it. Grammar mistakes, spelling errors, AP style mistakes. Yeah, Associated Press style is really important. If you make those kinds of mistakes in a news release, in a real-world situation, that news release simply won't get used. It'll be part of the 80% or so that don't get used. Now, granted, there are some other times when news releases don't get used. I mean, you send a news release to the media, and it arrives on the day when there's a big fire or a flood or a catastrophe or some other big news story. Well, okay, your news release may get bumped because it just was bad timing. But what's really important is that we learn to write news releases that look good and they sound good. You know, when you read them to yourself, they have a balance of art and craft, and they're addressed to the interests and needs of the gatekeeper. And if you do that, then you're much more likely to beat the odds and have your news release be used. And so the news release in this class we're doing is a drafting assignment. You're going to do a first draft. You're going to turn it in. I'm going to look at it. I'm going to mark it up. I'm going to make suggestions. You're going to get it back. And then when you get it back, you're going to have some time to revise it before you turn it in again later in the class. It's really important that you pay attention to the comments that I send back to you. I would also strongly recommend you talk to members of your team about the news release. Show them what you did. Talk to each other. I mean, think about this. In what other class does an instructor urge you to talk to your fellow students about the assignments that you're submitting? Nobody does that. They don't do that in math. They don't do that in history. They don't do that anywhere. I do it here because I want you guys looking at each other's news releases. Don't just look at it and go, oh, that's so nice. You did such a good job. No. Look at it and go, this sentence doesn't make any mistake. It doesn't make sense. Do you know you have a typo here? This apostrophe is not used right. Do that. Give that critical feedback that you need, because the, oh, it looks so nice kind of feedback, that doesn't help anybody. So, you know, you can give critical feedback and still be nice about it. You're all here to learn. So talk to each other and use each other as a resource. That's part of the GPS in this class that I talked about in that earlier video. So make sure you take full advantage of this drafting exercise. It's really good. How long does it take to write a good news release? It takes a while. Back when I was a freshman in college, I got a job in the University Information Services Office. That's the office that cranked out the news releases at Eastern New Mexico University. It took me a week to write my first news release. I mean, literally, I was there every day for a week. And I would write. And this was in the typewriter days, okay? I would type it out. I'd take it into the boss. His name was Mike. And I'd show it to Mike, and he'd go, and he'd mark it up and give it back to me. I was like, oh, man. It was so discouraging. But after a week, I got it. I finally wrote one, and Mike went, yeah, that looks good. We'll use that. So it takes time to do this. Give yourself the time. Practice. I don't expect perfection in this class, but I expect to see you get better. And if your final copy of news release comes back to me with the same mistakes you made on the first draft, you're going to get a very low grade. A very low grade. I want to see improvement. Okay. Let's see, what else do I need to talk about? We talked about mindfulness already in the first video. Be mindful in your writing. When you sit down to write, if your mind is thinking about something else, if you're busy texting while you're writing your assignment, unplug, okay? Unplug. Because you really need to focus. You really need to concentrate. You really can't have a million other distractions. You know, I know people who tell me they love to have the TV on while they're working on homework, and I go, I don't know how. I don't know how you can do that. You know, if it works for you, okay. But I'm really a strong believer in single tasking, especially in a class like this where we're attending to details. Because by golly, if you don't see the mistakes you make in your copy, the grammar errors, the punctuation mistakes, you may not see them, but I will. So that's why you really got to concentrate. You really got to focus. You really got to be mindful, because every little mistake really does matter. I also recommend that, generally speaking, after you write something, put it aside and come back to it later, maybe even a day or two later. You'll see it with fresh eyes, and you'll catch mistakes that you didn't see the first time around. I always do that when I write stuff, and I've been writing professionally for many, many years. But I write it, I set it aside, I go do something else, and then I come back to it, and I see mistakes that I didn't see the first time around. So that really helps. Okay, I have, let's talk about some of the concepts in this topic area. I have some photo manipulation examples in titanium. Why did we include that? This is a class about writing. We include that because writing and pictures often go together, and there are big ethical questions about what kinds of pictures PR people can use to illustrate the stories that they tell. And when is it or is it not acceptable to manipulate a photo? Well, in some situations it might be. In other situations it might not be. And many situations are not so clear. So make sure you look at that photo manipulation stuff that's in there and give some thought about that. Because we are storytellers in PR. We're storytellers with words and with pictures. And if we're not telling a strong ethical story with words or pictures, it's going to be problematic. And if people think we've fooled them with a picture that we produced, that's going to be a problem too. We're also thinking about social media in this area. And so, we're all aware of the many issues that come up with social media. There are many ethical challenges to social media, and there are constantly professionals who get on social media and they tweet or they make Instagram posts or whatever, and they make themselves look stupid. And I've got some examples of things in Titanium. You just have to be so careful. When something goes on the internet, it lives forever. And the example I've got in Titanium about UC Davis. UC Davis has been trying to scrub the internet for years of a picture of a campus cop pepper spraying non-armed, non-violent protesters, unarmed. It's just amazing. And UC Davis has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to scrub that picture from the internet. And guess what? You can't. When you do something stupid, it's going to live on the internet forever. So that's why we have to be so careful with social media. And there are public relations people who have used Twitter and tweeted things and absolutely killed their careers. And I think I've got the Justine Sacco example on Titanium. Justine Sacco was a PR person who tweeted, and I quote, she said, "I'm going to Africa, hope I don't get AIDS, just kidding, I'm white." Oh my God, she actually thought that was good to tweet that? Justine Sacco was in fact going to Africa, and she lost her job while she was in the air. She landed, I think it was in Johannesburg, she landed and got on Twitter and found out that she had lost her job because she tweeted an incredibly stupid, dumbass thing. So social media is so beneficial in so many ways, and it's also so incredibly dangerous. And I want you to come out of this class with an appreciation of how dangerous social media is. Doesn't mean we shouldn't use it, but we got to be really careful. So anyway, on that happy note, I'm going to leave you now to do your work. Just please let me know if you have any questions about topic 2. I want to have as much discussion on these important assignments as we can, and I really want you to learn and grow from this class. So please let me know how I can help you. Thank you very much.